All right, Babylonia sent this one along for me to watch and react to. This is Tim Cain of Fallout and other franchises fame. Talking about modding, I believe, is the video. I'm going to rewind it back to the beginning here. Cain on games modding. So we're going to go through this today. Give it a listen, give it a reaction. That's a bad angle. That's a better angle. I haven't watched this yet, so he's got a pretty cool channel. I've seen some of the other videos he's done. I really appreciate these sort of down to earth. There's nothing flashy going on. It's just him in his office, and just talking about things. And I really like that sort of podcast style. So we're going to dive in and give this a listen and a reaction. And as always, if you want more of the same, you like, subscribe, you hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. Don't forget we're live every day here and on Twitch, usually around noon central, but the times can vary. Sometimes I do morning streams, sometimes I do night streams, sometimes I do two a day, but generally speaking, around noon every day. I do lots of different things. Check out all the other playlists. I also write books. The latest fantasy novel is available. Links are down there. There's a Discord, all sorts of fun stuff. I'm going to shut up and we're going to do this. Let me move this window over here so I don't actually accidentally close down the recording. And I think we're good. Yes.
Hi, everybody. It's me, Tim.
What's up, Tim?
Today I
Another
want to
Tim.
talk about
Yay.
modding. I get a lot of questions about modding. Do I like mods? Do I play with mods? Will I review mods? So let me start off and say I love mods and I love people mod my games. Um, there's just so much to say about modding. I had to write a list to make sure I covered it all. And by mods, I'm talking about anything from people making new levels or areas to add into games they play, or to people to change a system mechanic or add a system mechanic or modify the UI or change what the skills or abilities do, or even add some or even delete some. I love these things because, first of all, it's very creative. And second, it
I think I'm going to pause right here because I can say the first thing I say is that I agree with all of what he just said, but and here's where the and I would need to I need to watch the rest of this video. And this is also an area where I might just need to have my mindset adjusted over the course of years. I don't know yet. But I've always been of the firm belief that all that sounds amazing. But there's also, from my perspective, as an author and creator, there's also the unless you provide modding in some sort of official capacity, right? If people are just out there doing it rogue, there is a question related to the intellectual property. And as someone who is the creator of multiple intellectual properties, I could tell you that I want to protect my intellectual properties absolutely, because they're my creations. And when you put something out there into the field, there is the discussion of, well, it's no longer mine. That comes into play. It's other people's to do with. But there's also not so clear lines when it's something along the lines of a film. And I obviously we're talking two different creative mediums, but I bring this into the conversations for the purpose of conversation. Um, I would never want, and I'm sure George Lucas would agree, many other filmmakers, I would not want, David Lynch for sure, I would not want someone else having final edit, if that makes sense, if I was a filmmaker. The idea of not having final edit, I just wouldn't agree to it at all. Because there needs to be a level of creative control over something when it comes to the overall idea, the IP, whatever it is. And that needs to be protected when it's in its final form. So I would never want someone to come along and create a new version of like The Empire Strikes Back, right? You know what I mean? Like, um, if the filmmaker wants to do it, that's different. But I don't want just some random Joe off the street coming in and saying this is the new, this is this is Indiana Jones in space, you know, using the Millennium Falcon. I'm like, no, no, the Millennium Falcon stays in Star Wars and Indiana Jones stays in Indiana Jones. I there's that part of me too. Anyway, I'm probably rambling about a topic that has no relation to this video, but hey, that's what happens when you get me first thing in the morning.
Shows a kind of effort that goes above and beyond just critiquing games. Even if you're just telling your friends, I like this game, I don't like this game. Modding a game goes above and beyond. And yes, we've hired people in the past. Companies I've worked for have hired people who got their start modding. So when I say make a demo, that includes make a mod for a game you like. Yes, I do play mods. I
That's a really, 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 really good advice nugget that he just gave. Really good. Like a demo is one of the best ways to get your foot in the door. If you have an impressive demo, your resume doesn't mean squat. What they really want to know is can you put together? It's no different than working in the art world um, as an artist, VFX designer, things of that nature. You don't need a flashy education or anything like that. Just you could just put together a demo, and if it's an impressive enough demo, and you can do that by just learning things online and just doing. So that's a great perspective.
play mods in games I like. I like when there are mods available. But I will say this, the first time I play a game, I like to play it vanilla with no mods. I will play any patches that the companies put out because I've heard people go, "Oh no, you have to play the game the way it first came out. I wanted to play it the way the developer intended." Well, the developer probably didn't intend to have all those bugs, and the patches are developer intent. So I would definitely patch a game with the official patches from the developer. I wouldn't add the DLC though. I like to play that first game patched, no DLCs, no mods, just play it.
I'm in the same boat, and this ties back into what I was talking about at the beginning about um, my respect for the intellectual property. And I know anybody who's been around for a while has heard me talk on this. One of the reasons I don't play with mods is because everything he just mentioned for my first playthroughs. Um, Developer intent trumps everything else for me personally. So I want to play the game in the manner with in which it was developed. So I've been very reluctant to use mods in the past on my first playthroughs because that's not the way the developer intended the game to be played. They put man hours into creating this UI. They put man hours into creating all these character models and the scripting and the way these are supposed to work. I'm going to enjoy the fruits of that labor. I'm keeping an eye on a cat right now, guys. Um, our rescue cat Blanca got beat up by one of our males today, so I've got her in my office as she's hiding because he got her. Not good. Anyway, um, now coming back through and playing, second, third playthroughs, I've never felt compelled to use mods because I'm still there for the developers version of that experience. But I definitely know myself well enough to say that if I ever, like Baldur's Gate 2, I can't say that I never used mods because Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, I definitely, once I'd beat the game 4 or 5 times, used the cheat commands for things like give myself 1,000,000 gold and give myself these spells that I shouldn't have at this level. So I can't say that I have never modded a game. So, and also knowing myself, I can also say that if I ever found another game that I was willing to play more than 3 or 4 times, or had the time to play more than 3 or 4 times, then I would probably mod that. It's just not something I normally do.
Later on, I'll add mods, and the
Okay,
mods I
yeah.
tend to add to games are ones that add new areas, new quests, and new NPCs. I less often play ones that change the base system mechanics or um, even remove system mechanics because I'm like, now you're changing the fundamental foundation of the game. Like if I'm playing a game, it's a heavily modded game. Skyrim's heavily modded. I tend to
I'm gonna
lean
pause here in a
towards
minute
the
because.
mods that add a new map.
All right, I'd never even contemplated it this way. I've never given it a long enough thought. So thanks for this video because this will help me, percolate on ideas. So games that I really like, I've never explored like other people's stuff, and there's a reason why. I remember I want to say it was for Neverwinter Nights 2. I can't remember if it was 2. I'm pretty sure it was 2. Had And if I'm wrong on this, correct me. If it was the first game, let me know. But it was one of the two games. It's been too long ago. I remember one of them had like an online, like people could create their own like dungeons and their own stories within the tools, and there was like a public place where everybody could put their modules, and you could just go and you could go through people's modules, right? And I remember doing that, and it was shit. It was just all shit. And so when I saw that, it was like, for me personally, um, I don't have the bandwidth, I don't have the time to sort through 75 really bad modules that people just didn't have the skill set to produce to get to the one good one. That's always my thought on that. And if I step back and say, if I were to wait, as an example, until, 5 years after a game's been out, and then I can go online and I can look at what are the most popular mods for this game, and I were to find like these five highly ranked story-based DLCs, I could see that being something that I could potentially get interested in from a story perspective.
Or add new dungeons, or add new NPCs that give you quests for things to go do. And I tend to avoid the one that go, I've redone the entire magic system, or I've changed how archery works.
Makes sense.
I'm less interested in those. Um, Now,
I could agree with that.
I'm less interested in those as a player. If someone applied for a job and I said, "What do you have as previous work?" and
It's a
like, I
great
do lots of
perspective.
mods,
Yeah.
then that's
You're
interesting. If
looking
they
at the
go,
other
I've
side of the
not only
equation.
added areas to this game, I've changed the system mechanics because I felt like it needed more of this, or I wanted to balance that. Especially if that's relevant to what they're applying to. If they're a level designer, I want to see some areas you made. If you're a system designer, it would be really cool to see, like, I took Fallout 3 and redid the skills. That would be an interesting thing to see. Um, Also, no, I'm not going to review the mods I use. I don't think that's not what I'm here for, and it's not what I want to do. And also, a mod I love or hate may not be a mod you love or hate, so it's not relevant to me. So that's why I don't do it.
It's a good
Now,
policy.
I've encouraged modding in all my games. In games I had a lot of control over, like Arcanum, we made sure that we could ship the tools for it. World Ed, the sector and map editor, and Sock Monkey, the scripting engine and the script system, script editor, we shipped those with Arcanum. And the
That's
reason we wanted
cool.
to do that was we wanted
That's
people
really
to make
cool.
mods, and we convinced the publisher to allow us to do that because since they wanted multiplayer, we were like, well, multiplayer people are going to want new maps. They're going to want to make maps. So we got that put in ostensibly to support multiplayer, but it was pretty easy to make single player ones too. So I love seeing my games modded. It's fun to see. While it's while it's interesting to read reviews or game forums and have people go, "I wish they'd done this," and "I would like it better if they did this," and "I didn't like this part." When someone mods a game, that gets like additional respect from me. And the reason is, first of all, it did mean they liked the game at least well enough
To want to go
that
back
they
in.
thought some changes would make it better, or they liked it
It's a
and
fair
wanted
point.
more of it, especially if they had more areas. It's usually, I like it, I want more of it. But it also means they worked hard enough to learn how to mod it and then make those mods. There's a huge difference between somebody saying, I wish the skills worked this way, and a modder going, I made the skills work this way.
Oh my God, he just said something that's massively important. So I cannot tell you, when I was managing the MMORPG studio for like 7.5 years, however long it was, um, I cannot tell you how many. I mean, it got up to the point where it was hundreds per month of emails from people just pitching me on stuff like, I want to join your team. I'm willing to do this, that, and the other, blah, 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 blah. And you read through these and you quickly realize that it's all just for the most part, junk because it's people who just say they want to do something. It was very rare for someone to actually send along a usable demo that I could look at, or some sort of a demo reel that I could look at. And I would say it was maybe 1 in 500 applicants would send something along that made me sit up and go, oh, well, you're worthy of bookmarking, so that when we need contracting services, I can reach out to you. And so it's this goes back to the cream of the crop thing about with my issue with I remember with Neverwinter 2, for looking for story based things, was always there was so much crap that you had to sort to get to the good stuff. But he's not wrong. I mean, it's a very important point about you know anybody who can put all that together. That is an impressive. Like, you took the time to learn, you took the time to figure this out. That's worthy of sitting up and going, you know what? Let's see what you got.
One is that's an interesting opinion. Some people agree, some people disagree. The
Yes.
other one is, hmm, let me take a look.
Yeah.
Because
One's opinion.
because
The
rather
other
than
is
argue
I
over
did
whether
it.
it's a better skill system, I can play it and see how it actually works.
It's like one thing to say I'm good at something, and like I really think that this would be a fun job, and here's why. Here's why I think I would be a good candidate. And then another person coming in and going, well, I think I bring a lot to the table because I like to pull things apart and make them work differently. Here's a good example of what I have in mind when I wanted to make this system work the way I wanted to. Like, it's a completely different thing.
And see how it interacts with the perks and leveling and other skills. So I really respect modders for the fact that they actually did something. It's far harder to do something than to say something. And the internet's full of people who say things.
Oh yeah.
I prefer doing. That's why I always say I pay a lot more attention to what people do than what they say. People have said all kinds of things to me. I usually pay attention to their actions. Now, I can't always prioritize making it easy to mod my games. As I mentioned with Arcanum,
Well, if you have a publisher getting
I
in
had
the
to
way,
convince the publisher.
yeah.
I'm not sure how much convincing it took. When I mentioned that I was putting them in the build, because we make the build, I said it was to support multiplayer, which is what they wanted. Can't always do that. We've often had publishers who pushed back when we were saying, oh, one of the things we're doing here is we're exposing these functions to scripts so that they can be modded. If we ever said that, they usually go, look, we're not paying you to make this game easy to mod. We're trying to pay you to finish this game. Especially because you always come down at the end to you're running out of time. And especially in this era where if if you're not going to crunch, that means you're going to delete stuff.
He's talking about scope creep here. This is brilliant. It's just another conversation about scope creep. He's talking about not every publisher is going to give you the leeway to have scope creep. Some of them are going to come in there with the budget and say, no, we are not paying you to be creative with these systems. We're paying you to hit these bullet points to make a good game in the way that we want you to. So you're being paid to hit these bullet points. Hit these bullet points, you hit a milestone, you get paid. You don't hit these bullet points, you don't make the milestone, you don't get paid. Like, it's just that simple. You lose your job. I mean, so not every publisher is going to give you the leeway to have scope creep and some I've have a programmer that I worked with who had the mentality that their creative freedom to just put things into the build trumped um, the need to get it out the door and the need to hit bullet points and milestones and everything else. And it's not a pleasant time if one party can't realize that their position is to just get things done. So not everyone's going to be capable of doing what he just talked about, which is listen to the publisher, swallow your pride, and say, oh, okay, yeah, I'm here to do this thing. That's my job. Let's get it done. So it's really good perspective.
You're going to delete skills. You're going to delete content. You're going to delete quests. You're going to delete NPCs.
As someone who has been in the creative space for 20 plus years, um, I get asked, not all the time, but I do get asked every once in a while, what it's like to, doesn't it? Some people are like, isn't it hard to work on something for 4 years and then move on to something else? And it's like, no, whether it's 2 years, 4 years, 8 years, whatever. Um, Quick commercial break, everyone, to celebrate and give thanks to all of these amazing people who keep me on the air full time. Really appreciate the support. All you got to do is join as a member. You get access to private videos. You can also do super thanks on any upload or super chats and stickers on any live stream or premiere you see. And beyond that, don't forget we're multi streaming over on Twitch now, so you can support over there as well. Thanks so much to everybody. Let's get back to the video at hand. It's no different than being an actor or a director, right? Your job, my job is to create worlds, right? So you have to disassociate your emotion and your ego out of that equation because in that process, in the creative process of taking something from an idea on a napkin sketch to the first draft, second draft, third draft, fourth draft, fifth draft, there's going to be name changes. There's going to be parts of stories that you completely cut out and throw away. There's storylines from other stories that you pull in and modify. It's a lot of surgery. It's a lot of moving parts and there is a lot of moving things around, and especially when you get into the revision process of throwing out the things that don't work to polish up and tighten, and then to add things that help these things work together even better. So there is no such thing, as anything. There's nothing safe until you get to the end, but ultimately you do need a driving and defining vision, and only one person can have that. It's the creative director. And then above the creative director is if there is a publisher, then that publisher has a say in that creative process as well. But it's got to be defined and you have to be willing to throw things to the side. And ego, which says, "No, I worked hard on this and my idea needs to stay because of these 5 reasons." I don't care. You're not the creative director. It's not your place. Um, Onwards with this train.
In the time period where you're deleting stuff in order to make your schedule, you can't prioritize adding in new stuff like,
Nope.
hey, let's expose stuff to modders. So, and similarly, we can't always ship tools. And that comes for a variety of reasons. Part of it is sometimes the tools that you use are proprietary. Like if we buy a third party
Yep.
tool
That's a
to
very good
do
point.
lip syncing, we can't provide that tool with the game. We had to buy it, and often now there's subscription, so we had to pay yearly to use it. So we can include it, but the game requires those lip sync files in order to have a person do their VO. So it makes it hard for the modder to make new dialogue. Similarly, you may make a tool that, because there's teams are bigger now, some tools require networked resources.
Mm.
That the best example I can think of this is at Obsidian we use a string tool, and that string tool basically keeps text and keeps it in a big database for the game. Keeps track of, how many things are referencing it, because sometimes you write one line of text, it'll get referenced in multiple places. Keeps track of what languages it's going to be translated into, what languages it has been translated into. And since different people use the string table for different reasons, it's kept separate from the game and it's kept in a network location, so it's not on any one person's computer.
Yeah, it's
Well,
it's
it's
like
hard to ship a tool like that because not only is it proprietary to the company,
it's no different than you're just having your it's like an internal Slack or wiki for your team.
but it's the company's tool, so maybe they could decide to release it. But that would require you to have set up a network and do all this back end work just to let the tool work at home for you. Now, yeah, you could say, well, can't you make a version that's not networked? It's not why we're doing it. And again, it's hard to justify that time when other people need tools on other games and those games are being funded by publishers. So that's why you sometimes see games that ship in a not easy to mod format.
Mm.
It's some people would like to ascribe to those developers don't want their games modded. I think a better way of viewing it is modding was not prioritized either by the developer or the publisher or whoever held the purse strings. But I
Purse
will tell you
strings.
that a lot of games are now.
I love the fact that he brings up it's the budget. This is what restrains things. You want unlimited freedom, there has to be an unlimited budget. If there's not an unlimited budget, you cannot have unlimited freedom. You must have a vision, a guiding force, point A to point B, and yeah, I mean it's it's interesting to hear this from this perspective. Because I'm listening right now as with my creative director CEO cap on, um, and him having his experience also in the same position, and game director, while having someone above him. It's fun, but it's complicated.
Now made on common engines: Unity, Unreal, Godot. So all those engines use a very similar data format. So once you learn one, and that's one of the reasons game engines get popular, once you learn one, you have the ability to make mods, not all mods, but certain mods, for all games made in that format. So that's another reason why you might want to pick up Unity and Unreal. If you don't want to make your own game, maybe you want to mod a game you like. Um, Now, I still like it when games ship with tools specifically to mod their games, but push comes to shove, learn in a game engine and mod with that. So, to sum up, because so many people have asked, yes, I like mods. Yes, I play with mods. Yes, I love when people mod my games. Yes, some of my games aren't as easy to mod as others. But a lot of people have asked these questions, so I hope I answered them all. And now you know what I think about modding.
It's pretty concise. So,
Some people,
I think I mean from a creative perspective, I think he's right. Like all the creative reasons to do mods are there. People building tool sets is great. Um, I loved, and I realized that my takeaways from some of these points had nothing to do with modding, because I was going off on my tangents about creative direction and so on and so forth. Um, Ultimately, I think that I'm all for story stuff. I don't foresee myself ever using mods that dramatically change the way a game is played. Um, I was very reluctant to use any mods in World of Warcraft, and I do enjoy DBM, the Deadly Boss mods, which doesn't necessarily change any of the functionality of the game, but it definitely takes weight off of a player's shoulders in terms of trying to memorize these super complex mechanics that change from boss to boss to boss. And when you're going through the rating like that, even if it's just on a weekly basis, it is too much to be expected to remember. And I don't play games to try to become an Olympic athlete at memorization. Um, so I've made concessions. I could definitely see. So like I know Bubble, who sent me this video. I know he plays a lot of Fallout 4 like stuff and a lot of Fallout mods and storylines that are from creators within that space. And I had never considered that because here's the thing. Like I said, I've not that I haven't considered it, but I've never invested into it because for me, trying to find the right story, I've mentioned it earlier in the video, it just feels like an impossibility, because you have to wade through so much crap, and I just don't have the time to do that. But I do agree with all of the things that are creative here. I also love the internal discussion, which is what my brain was pinging off of discussions between publishers and game directors and creative directors and programmers and people who are on that, you know, in that process. Everybody's got their role to play, and it was interesting hearing him talk about scope creep from the perspective of, it being, things that have to get deleted because I delete things, dude. It's just a part of the creative process. Like you just have to learn to shed that ego associated with this is my baby. No, it's not. It's an idea, and I've said this. I'm going to say it in a different way here, but um, anybody, I used to the way I would say it was like any animal in the forest can pick up a wad of poop and chuck it at a wall, right? That doesn't mean anything. But if that could be taken and crafted into something, that's worth something. And that process, it's the creative process. Anybody can have an idea and throw it at the wall. Ideas mean nothing. Ideas mean nothing. The only thing that matters is being willing to put in the hard work and take the time to create something out of that idea. And when people do that for the right reasons, it creates really cool creative mods, and toolkits, like he was saying, for ways to change games for players who want more of that. So it's a very interesting discussion. Thanks for sending me this. And hopefully all of you enjoyed this as well. I'm sure other people had different takeaways. This is just my takeaway on things, um, which had a little bit of game design and game dev stuff in there, along with just business ownership. Good stuff. I'm always happy to do more. So as people find videos that they want me to look at, I'm always happy to take a look. Feel free to send them my way. Thanks everybody. Like, subscribe, hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. Daily streams here and on Twitch. And as always, I play a lot of different games. Check them all out. I also do reviews of things like movies and books. There's a Discord. See you in the next one, everybody. Stay safe. Happy gaming.